Hello everybody, it's WJ here and welcome back to Heimstadt. I hope you liked the intro of this video, and although it's sad that SC Eintracht Heimstadt didn't manage to get through to the semi-finals, I'm very glad to present to you the stadium where this match took place, the Salamander Arena. Or at least how this building came together. It will be a build in two parts. In this first one, we'll build up the stadium. In the second video, we'll detail the surroundings. You've just seen me flatten the area where the stadium will be, and now I'm starting with the stands. I wanted the stadium to be completely custom, so I'm using stairs for that purpose. Although there are no seats on these, when you zoom out a little, you don't really notice that anymore, I think. Now, I place a road for measuring out the size of the stands. By the way, I placed the stairs as procedural objects, mostly so this won't count to the prop limit. But in hindsight, I also could have enlarged them a bit, so I wouldn't have to use over 1400 items. Well, apart from that, I'm going to edit quite a few props and buildings as well, which you will see later in this video. And when you turn an asset into a PO, it automatically aligns to the underlying grid of the game. To keep things simple, I only rotate the POs with the right mouse button. This means they rotate in steps of 45 degrees, so they all align perfectly to one another. For the stands, I used the stairs from the do-it-yourself skatepark pack by 220 Hz. And these railings are from that pack as well. But they are not on the same incline as the stairs, which can be adjusted quite easily with PO, of course. Getting all the parts of the stands on the correct height is quite the hassle. And you really need to turn the camera to see if it aligns from all angles. So, my apologies if the constant camera movements annoy you. Because they definitely annoy me, but I can't really do anything about it anymore. Now, let's create the tunnel from where the players enter the field. I'm using the tunnel props by Ronix, obviously. But in the end, not this one. I'll replace it after I've measured out the gap in between the stands where the tunnel should be. To cover up the sides of the stands, I used the concrete retaining wall props by Lost Gecko. They seem to be meant to be used with the PO mod, as the texture still looks pretty good after you edited their dimensions. You can really notice that with this straight wall part here above the tunnel. I zoom in quite far so I can actually see what I'm doing. But moving the camera when you're zoomed in this much goes really slow. So I zoom out to move and zoom back in again. While playing, it's not really an issue, but seeing back the sped up footage, it looks like I'm all over the place with the camera. While building, I tried to take this into account, but apparently I was too focused to think about it here. Now, I replaced the tunnels with an easier to use prop. At first, I tried to widen this prop, but it didn't look that good. So I decided to get a double entrance. I scaled them down, but it was a bit too much. So I scaled them up again, and then a bit more. And then it needs just one more nudge, and then it fits perfectly. In case you were wondering why it took me around 10 hours to complete today's build, that's one of the reasons why. But there still are some gaps that need to be filled. For that, I use a few block props for the tunnels and edit the crap out of them. First, a flat surface for the top part. Maybe not the best decision of the architect, as this will probably be covered in empty plastic beer cups after a match. Again, it is too wide at first, and then not wide enough, and then still not wide enough, etc. But In the end, I managed to get the perfect dimensions. But we still have those empty triangles. Again, the giant blocks prove to be very handy. In the last video I talked about streaming, but I haven't done a live stream since. Mainly because I visited some friends on my days off, and the other days I spent my free time working on this video. Getting 5 hours of recorded material into a 30-minute video is quite time consuming. I'm still trying to figure out a way to get these videos done more faster and more easier. But next week, hopefully, I'll find the time again to stream some more and continue the city on the river island that I started last time. But I could also just stream from Heimstadt or the Noord, even though I'm quite ahead with building there. So there could be some spoilers. But let me know what you would like to see. Now a large billboard to cover up the large concrete surface. Because there are a lot of these in a modern day stadium. I chose Salamander to be the main sponsor of the team, because I like the logo and the colors. Only after the stadium was halfway done, I found out that it's actually a shoe company. Not that it really matters, it's all about aesthetics. I'm editing the railings again, so people cannot fall down the walls here. Then copy the railings and the stands around. When you have over roughly 3000 POs, the game starts to lag when you copy a PO. And the more you copy in one go, the more it lags. You don't notice it in this video because I cut it all out. But at a time during this build, I copied around 150 POs at the same time, which took my PC a few minutes to process. There's another reason why it took me over 10 hours to complete one building. Now let's place the football field in front of the stands. I use the road in front to align the rotation of the field. I decided not to use the field with the tracks around it, otherwise the stadium would be even larger than it will be now. I surround the field with roads, so all the stands around it will have the same distance from the field. And then I'm going to place the roofs already, as I had a good idea how to make them. I used the parking structures roofs by Luminu and scaled them up quite a bit. I love those pillars on the sides on a slight angle. The only downside to upscaling them this much is that they only show up when the middle of the prop is on screen, so they tend to pop in and out when you're zoomed in. I want the back side of the roof to be straight, so all the nodes on this side get a little nudge. Then copy the roof to the other side and place them so they just stay free of the road. For the large side, the roof needs more adjustment. I noticed that the roof dips in a bit between the support beams, but that's an easy fix. Then I continue to adjust the dimensions of the roofs to get them to work together. I've been looking through all of my subscribed buildings to figure out how I wanted the outside of the stadium to look like. And I decided to go for a brick facade with a lot of windows by using the Miyagi Motors factory by Avanya. But it is obviously way too large. I only need the front part, so let's get rid of the backside. First, I need to lower the angled roof parts and all those chimneys and exhaust pipes. Don't mind the flickering of the roof, it will all be hidden inside the building. Then, step by step, I move the backside into the front part. This will result in a forest of nodes inside the building, which will create some small problems when I want to edit the dimensions later on, but we'll manage. Then, for convenience later on, I move the nodes of the whole building so the plus will be in the middle of the building instead of a few meters behind it. And then we move the building into place. Off camera I raise the roofs so they'll be above the buildings. Also, I copied and edited one building so the side part doesn't stick out anymore. But it's still too long, so again, step by step, selecting the nodes and move the side into the building. I sped up the footage of editing the nodes a bit more than the rest of the footage, as I thought it would become a bit boring. And it saves time. This video is already over 30 minutes. Without all the cutting and speeding up, it would have been over an hour long. Now, let's complete the outside of the stadium by copying the building without the extruding part around. I know I'm building over the highway, don't worry. We'll move the whole stadium shortly after. On the back, we have the same problem as we had on the front. I need a shorter version of the building. First, I get rid of the door on the left side. Then shrink the right side a bit. I don't mind the slight imperfections on the side. They will be hidden. And suddenly I figured it would be easier to just put the wall on the right side into place and then just move whatever sticks out of the way. And indeed, it's much easier and much faster. And now the whole thing actually starts to look like a stadium, apart from the fact that about 80% of the stands are still missing. But let's move the stadium away from the highway first and get rid of most of the concrete awnings or roofs or however you want to call them. And the windows on top of the roofs must be gone as well. Now that I raised the roofs, I have space for a second ring of seating. So let's copy the stands below and raise them. Again, getting it all in the right place is a struggle, but it works out in the end. then counting the number of stair parts that I need to fill the gap. 5 in this case, yes. And then some concrete surfaces to create the floor. And some concrete walls to create a wall. First on the bottom end, then for the raised stands. Now they all really begin to look like stadium stands. Off camera I copied a large part of the stands for the short side, but I needed a solution for the corners. I decided to rotate a part 45 degrees. I place it, then move the short side stands to the correct location, and then edit the concrete wall parts so they connect nicely. Now I have to copy some of the stair parts to fill the gaps. The textures flicker a little when they overlap, but I couldn't be bothered to edit the stairs so they wouldn't overlap anymore. That would have taken at least another hour, and it's just not worth it. When you zoom out a little, you'll hardly notice it anymore. Then all we need to do is finish the top part of the stands and the corner is done. I copied the stands around off camera. I figured by now you already know how they are done. On the other side from the tunnels, I left a gap on the top part for the skyboxes. And there's also a room for the TV commentator and the stadium speaker. For this I use one of the modular office buildings by Jarnable. Of course, it's a PO, because its dimensions need to be altered drastically. After I measured out the height of everything, I place it outside the stadium and start messing with the nodes. Then I place it back and adjust the width to fill in the gap.
You just look away, let go aside. I don't think you recognize. Can I even do something right? And every time I do something nice, you just walk away with no reply. Baby, look into my eyes. Can I even do something right? Feeling fucked up, sitting on a shotgun, getting you to notice that I'm the one for you to lean on. Come here to be strong. Misunderstanding me is everything that you've done. Feeling fucked up, sitting on a shotgun. When I tell you you look good, you think I'm making fun, but I wouldn't dare to. You can I want to break through your wall.
I thought the gap between the roofs and the buildings was a bit too much. So I placed a bunch of supports to cover it up a bit and edit them to somewhat match the curve of the roofs.
Feeling fucked up, sitting on a shotgun. Getting you to notice that I'm the one for you to lean on. Come here to be strong. Misunderstanding me is everything that you've done. Feeling fucked up, sitting on a shotgun. When I tell you you look good, you think I make it fun, but I wouldn't dare to. You can make me swear to, but whatever I try, you just shut your mouth and run. Every time I do something nice, you just look away, let go of some. You can't have me, but you just wreck me. You want to kill me, then just kill me.
Then it's time for some floodlights. Because I have these beautiful pillars in the corners, I figured it would look better to place the lights underneath the roof. And I must admit that I really like the way it turned out when you take a look at nighttime. It's very bright, as it should be. To really establish the stadium sponsor, I placed a giant billboard above the entrance, just covering those top windows. And then it's time to place some advertisement all around the stands and the field. Not only for the big brands like Salamander, Volksbank or WikkeD. But also for Janni's Ice Café und Snacks that you can find next to the main square in the old town. After all, Eintracht Heimstadt is still the people's club. There isn't much to say about what I'm doing now, it's just placing and copying billboards. So let's talk about something else. Although I was a bit hesitant myself, some of my regular followers, or as I should say, friends, have pushed me to create a Patreon account. And so I did. Now you can become my sugar daddy for only $1 a month. In exchange, I will upload some screenshots, maybe some textures that you can use with PO, and early access to my videos. And I'm also thinking of making some of my music available for download. But I'm still working on it, so don't expect a flood of pictures and videos and musics when you decide to support me. But they will come, pinky promise. I also need to figure out what tiers I will have and the difference between them. I wish you could support me by sending me more time. But hey, it is what it is, and I'll keep spending most of my free time to make supporting me worthwhile. And let me take this opportunity to thank my very first patron, or as he wants to be called, my sugar daddy, the Justinator. Thank you so much, my friend. Now, back to the screen. After I figured out how to surround the field with all them billboards, we need to place some dugouts. For this I'm using some simple chairs, placed in a row, and the vanilla taxi stand, scaled down quite a bit. Around the field I placed some artificial grass surfaces, and underneath the tunnel a ploppable pavement square. To divide the pavement from the grass I used some drain decals. And that's it for today's build. In the cinematics you'll see the start of the parking area that I laid down already, but the rest of the detailing you'll have to wait till the next episode. If you have seen any assets that you would like to use yourself, I have 3 collections that are linked in the description for what I use in this series. One for all the mods, one for the buildings, and one for all other stuff, such as props, roads, vehicles, etc. But beware, do not download all of them at once. You'll need quite some RAM to use all of the assets. I advise you to just look through the collection and only subscribe to what you like. And remember to always read the description, or you might end up breaking your game. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or suggestions, do leave them in the comment section. I would like to thank you for watching, and if you like this video, give it a nice thumbs up. Hope to see you next time. Bye bye. For the stands again, but oh, I'm sorry, I need to start over. And you really need to turn the camera to see if it aligns from all. Remember, I'm gonna start again. Now a large billboard to cover up the large concrete surface. They only show up when the come on. Then copy the roof to the other side and place them so they just stay free of the road. I place it, then move the shorts, then I place it back and adjust the width. It is terrible, come on. Fuck off, bitches upstairs. Then it's time for some floodlights. Because I have these beautiful. This is terrible. Come on. Come on. It's horrible.